Recently, a man drove 4 hours to attend my concealed carry course in Tampa. I asked the man why he wanted to carry a gun, and I was not prepared for his response. Over the weekend, I was hanging out by the pool of my apartment complex with some friends. When a man walked up, he ripped the chain off my neck and took a bottle of liquor I had. I want a gun so that if something like this happens again, I can kill him. In this section, we're going to discuss when you are allowed to use non-deadly force to protect personal property, and 16 situations where you are allowed to use deadly force. Let's jump into it. Recently, a man drove 4 hours to attend my concealed carry course in Tampa. I asked this man why he wanted to carry a gun, and I was not prepared for his response. Over the weekend, I was hanging out by the pool with a couple of friends at my apartment complex when a man walked up, ripped the chain off my neck, and took a bottle of liquor. I want a gun so that if something like this happens again, I can kill them. Does this individual have a right to use or threaten the use of deadly force in this situation? To find out, we're going to explore Florida Statute 776.031, subsection 1. Here's what it says. A person is justified in using or threatened use force except deadly force against another when and to the extent that the person reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to prevent or terminate the other's trespass on or other tortious or criminal interference with either real property other than a dwelling or personal property, lawfully in his or her possession or in the possession of another, who is a member of his or her immediate family or household, or of a person whose property he or she has a legal duty to protect. A person who uses or threatens to use force in accordance with this subsection does not have a duty to retreat before using or threatening to use such force. According to this statute, our victim would have a legal right to use force, which includes his fists, feet, or pepper spray, to defend his property from being stolen. He would not have a right to use deadly force. This would include a firearm or knife. If our victim was not able to physically defend his property from being stolen, whose fault is that? It's the victim's. This is why I am such a big believer in learning how to fight. I don't believe my firearm is about protecting my stuff. It's about protecting life. Recently, I had an elderly woman attend one of my concealed carry courses in Brandon. When I asked her why she wanted to carry concealed, she gave me the greatest answer in history. Here's what she said. Last week, I was mowing my lawn and stepped inside to get a cool glass of water. I looked out the window and saw a man stealing my lawnmower. I know what this man looks like, and I know what kind of truck he drives. If I ever see him again, I want to be able to legally shoot him. I love the enthusiasm, lady, but I don't think you're allowed to do that. First, your firearm is not about protecting your lawnmower. Second, let's take a look at the cost of these two options. If the bad guy steals your lawnmower, how much money do you lose? You may lose a few $100s. If you shoot this bad guy, how much is your trial gonna cost? Hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of stress. Even if you were justified, which I know you're not, but would it be worth it? Of course not. What can we do if someone is stealing from us? I believe we have two options. First is to confront the bad guy and demand our items back. A word of caution. Many thieves are stealing to feed a drug habit, and drugs make people do crazy stuff. Some scumbag may be willing to kill you over $10 just so they can get high. This brings me to option number 2. Let the bad guy go and call the police. I personally don't want my wife Tiffany in a confrontation with a thief in my front yard. I prefer for her to stay out of harm's way and call the cops. Depending on the situation, I may or may not confront the bad guy. Use a lot of judgment in a situation like this. As I mentioned before, it is crucial to think about and plan for these scenarios way before they occur. In the heat of the moment, you are bound to make bad decisions that will land you in a lot of trouble later on. There are certain circumstances in which you are allowed to use or threaten the use of deadly force to protect personal property. Here's what Florida Statute 776.031 has to say. A person is justified in using or threatening to use deadly force only if he or she reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony. A person who uses or threatens to use deadly force in accordance with this subsection does not have a duty to retreat and has the right to stand his or her ground if the person using or threatening to use deadly force is not engaged in a criminal activity and is in a place where he or she has a right to be. According to Florida law, you would only have a right to use or threaten the use of deadly force if the use of deadly force was necessary to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony. The list of forcible felonies can be found in Florida Statute 776.08. Here's what it says. A forcible felony means treason, murder, manslaughter, sexual battery, carjacking, home invasion robbery, burglary, arson, kidnapping, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, aggravated stalking, aircraft piracy, unlawful throwing, placing, or discharging of a destructive device or bomb, and any other felony which involves the use or threat of physical force or violence against any individual. According to Florida Statute 776.031, you would only have a right to use or threaten the use of deadly force if one of these forcible felonies was occurring, was in the process of occurring, or had already occurred. I'm sure you guys work really hard for your belongings, and finding someone stealing these items is very difficult. I remember a couple years ago, I got a really loud bang on my front door. When I opened it, it was my UPS driver. She said, "There's a man stealing your kids' bikes." So I ran outside. The guy had one of my kids' bikes in his hand, and there was another bike in the back of his truck. I grabbed the bike out of this guy's hand and I threw it in the yard. I grabbed the bike out of his truck and I chucked it. And I was screaming at this dude. This was a very high emotion moment for me. And these are the most dangerous situations we will ever be in. We have to be really cautious in these high emotion states because it is very easy to make a mistake, do something stupid, and end up pointing a gun or threatening the use of a gun. Then you may end up getting arrested for brandishing. We want to avoid that.